I am Thomas, 34 years old, and Atlanta has been my home my entire life. But most days, it felt like a race I was always losing, a relentless marathon where the finish line kept moving further away. My alarm clock would scream at 5 in the morning, a jarring sound that sliced through the pre-dawn quiet, long before the sun even thought about waking up. I'd slowly pull myself out of bed, feeling the aches from the previous day's labor already settling into my bones, and then pull on the same worn jeans and t-shirt that had seen countless days of hard work. A quick, cold piece of toast, gulped down standing in my small, dimly lit kitchen, was usually all I had time for before heading out the door. My job was at a huge, cavernous warehouse on the dusty outskirts of the city, a sprawling building filled with the constant hum of machinery and the smell of cardboard. I spent my days loading and unloading boxes, heavy and sometimes awkward, moving massive pallets with a forklift, a powerful but unforgiving machine. It was honest work, I told myself, but it was also backbreaking, repetitive, and paid just enough to keep the lights on and the fridge from being completely empty. By nightfall, I was completely drained, my body aching, my mind often feeling like a tangled ball of yarn that someone had tossed into a high wind. My hands were rough, permanently calloused, and my back always carried a dull, persistent ache. I dreamed of more, I really did, even if those dreams felt like distant stars I could only glimpse on the clearest nights. I'd see the gleaming office buildings downtown as I drove my old, sputtering car home, the skyscrapers reaching confidently into the sky, and I'd imagine myself sitting at a clean desk, using my brain for something creative, something that mattered, something that could actually make a difference. I had always loved to draw as a kid, to create stories and worlds in my head, but life had a way of pushing those aspirations further and further away, burying them under the weight of daily survival. My quiet struggle wasn't just about the endless bills that piled up on my tiny kitchen counter, or the desperate scramble to make rent on my small, one-bedroom apartment. It was about the profound, unsettling feeling that I was becoming invisible, that my potential, whatever little I had, was slowly fading away like an old photograph left too long in the harsh sun. The biggest challenge hitting me right then, the one that truly kept me awake at night, was a massive medical bill from an emergency room visit a few months back. I had taken a bad fall at work, twisting my ankle badly, and even with insurance, the copays and deductibles for the x-rays and follow-up appointments were absolutely suffocating. It felt like every single step I tried to take forward, life would maliciously push me 2 steps back, trapping me in a cycle of debt and despair. My internal enemy, my worst opponent, was the relentless doubt that whispered in my ear every single night, its voice chillingly familiar. "You're not smart enough, Thomas. You're not strong enough to break free. You're just meant to struggle. This is your lot in life and you can't change it." That doubt was a heavy, suffocating cloak, constantly weighing me down, making it hard to even breathe sometimes, stealing my motivation and my last scraps of hope. I tried so incredibly hard to fight that insidious doubt, to push back against the darkness that threatened to consume me. I started taking every single extra shift offered at the warehouse, pushing my body to its absolute limits, working until my eyes burned with exhaustion and my muscles screamed in protest. I'd come home, eat a quick, often cold dinner, and instead of collapsing into bed, I'd force myself to pull out my old, slow laptop. I enrolled in free online courses, desperately trying to learn new computer skills, hoping beyond hope that I could find a better job, something less physically demanding, something that paid enough to begin tackling that monstrous mountain of debt. I spent countless hours learning about spreadsheets and basic coding, my brain aching with the effort as much as my body did. I even tried to revive my old passion, selling some of my simple drawings online, creating a small gallery on a free website, hoping to make a little extra cash, but no one ever seemed to notice them, much less buy one. It felt like shouting into a void. Just when I thought I was making a tiny, almost imperceptible bit of progress, the universe seemed to conspire against me with cruel precision. My old car, the trusty vehicle that got me to and from work every single day, decided it had had enough. The engine seized up without warning, leaving me stranded on the side of the highway, miles from home, staring at an impossible repair bill. The cost was astronomical, far more than I had in my meager emergency savings, which were already depleted by the endless medical bills. I had no choice but to start taking 2 different buses and then walking another mile just to get to work on time, adding an extra 2 grueling hours to my already impossibly long day. The extended commute meant I often missed the bus connections, causing me to be late and miss several shifts, and consequently, my paycheck got even smaller, tightening the financial noose around my neck. Then, just when I felt I couldn't take much more, a promotion I had been hoping for at the warehouse, a team lead position that would have meant a small but significant pay raise and a little more respect, was given to someone else, someone who had been there less time than me. I had worked harder than anyone, had shown up every single day, had proven my dedication, but it simply wasn't enough. They said I didn't have enough leadership experience, a vague phrase that felt like a dismissive slap in the face. The words stung deeply, echoing the nagging doubt that I just wasn't good enough, that I was destined to be overlooked and undervalued. I hit my absolute lowest point a few weeks later, a depth of despair I had never known. I had finally gotten an interview for a junior data entry position, something that actually used those computer skills I had been painfully teaching myself online. I spent days practicing interview questions, researching the company thoroughly, even splurged on a cheap new shirt to make a good impression. I felt a tiny glimmer of hope, a fragile spark that maybe, just maybe, this was my way out of the constant struggle. The interview itself went well, or so I thought. The manager seemed impressed with my eagerness and my self-taught skills. I walked out of that building feeling lighter, more hopeful than I had in years, daring to imagine a future where I wasn't constantly worried about money, where I could actually breathe. But then the email came, a cold, impersonal message delivered directly to my inbox, stating that they had decided to move forward with other candidates. It crushed me utterly and completely. It wasn't just a job rejection. It felt like a complete, unequivocal rejection of all my efforts, all my hope, all my dreams. I went home, threw the new shirt into the corner of my cluttered room, and just sat in the dark, the silence amplifying my feelings of worthlessness. The medical bills were piling up faster than ever. My car was still a useless hunk of metal, and now, even with my very best efforts, I couldn't get ahead, I couldn't find a way out. The thought of giving up completely, of just letting everything fall apart, felt like a tempting, quiet escape from the relentless pain. I truly felt like the world was too heavy, too impossible to carry anymore. I had no idea how I would pay for anything, how I would even make rent next month. I felt utterly alone, completely defeated, drowning in a sea of my own despair. As I sat there in the oppressive dark of my apartment, tears silently tracing hot paths down my face, my mind, almost instinctively, drifted back to a time when I didn't feel so utterly defeated, a time when I had been a small, scared boy. I was in third grade, a small, shy kid who struggled terribly with reading. I remember the profound embarrassment, the acute shame, the feeling of being utterly stupid, when all the other kids in class seemed to pick up reading so easily, effortlessly gliding through words that felt like insurmountable mountains to me. My teacher, Mrs. Albright, had the kindest, most understanding eyes and a smile that could, quite literally, melt away any fear I had. One afternoon after school, she asked me to stay behind. My heart sank to my stomach, instantly convinced I was in trouble, that she was finally going to confirm what I already believed, that I was a lost cause. But she didn't scold me. Instead, she sat down beside me at a small table, patiently sounding out words, not rushing me, not judging me, her voice soft and encouraging. She looked at me directly, her eyes full of warmth, and told me, "Thomas, you have such a wonderful imagination, a world of stories bubbling inside you. Once you unlock these words, once you learn to read, you'll be able to share all the amazing stories inside your head with everyone. You're not struggling, dear. You're just taking your time to learn it right. And that's okay. You will get there, I promise you." She even made me a special bookmark, drawing a detailed rocket ship on it with colorful markers, telling me, "This is for your journey, Thomas. You're going to fly far and you're going to do incredible things." That small, simple act of kindness, that unwavering belief in me, a scared little boy who felt like the dumbest kid in the class, stuck with me. It was a faint but persistent beacon of light in my darkest memory, a quiet promise of a future I couldn't yet see. Sitting in my own dark apartment, feeling just like that lost, ashamed third grader again, her words echoed in my mind, "You will get there." Suddenly, a clarity washed over me, a realization of what I had to do. It wasn't about finding an immediate solution to my overwhelming money problems. It was about acknowledging that one moment, that one person who had believed in me when no one else, not even I, had. It felt like the only thing I could do that made any sense in the chaos of my life. I stumbled over to my small, rickety desk, found a clean piece of paper and a pen, and began to write to Mrs. Albright, pouring out my heart onto the page. I told her about being that scared third grader, about her incredible kindness, about the little rocket ship bookmark. I told her how her words had stayed with me, even all these years later, through all the struggles, and how they had just at that very moment reminded me that I could still get there, that there was still hope. I didn't ask for anything. I just wanted her to know the profound and lasting impact she had made on my life, a life she probably hadn't thought about in decades. Sending that letter felt like a true leap of faith, a step into the unknown, a way to connect with a small, persistent glimmer of hope that had somehow survived all these years inside me, buried deep beneath the layers of doubt and despair. I walked to the neighborhood mailbox late that night, the cold Atlanta air doing little to cool the warmth spreading through my chest. A tiny, almost imperceptible bit of the heavy cloak of doubt had lifted from my shoulders. It felt profoundly right, a quiet act of defiance against the hopelessness. After mailing the letter, something inside me subtly shifted. The world didn't instantly fix itself. No magical solution appeared overnight, but my perspective did. The crushing feeling of utter despair lessened its grip. I started looking at my situation differently, not as an insurmountable wall, but as a series of problems that perhaps could be solved one by one. Instead of focusing on what I didn't have, I focused on what I still possessed. My hands, my brain, my unwavering determination to keep trying. The very next day, with a renewed sense of purpose, I started researching grants for people with overwhelming medical debt. I found a local nonprofit organization that specialized in helping people navigate complex medical bills, and even offered some limited financial assistance. I applied, not with the desperation I had felt before, but with a quiet, steady resolve. Within a week, a small local construction company, having heard about my car trouble and my strong work ethic through a mutual acquaintance at the warehouse, called me with an unexpected offer. They needed a temporary driver for their deliveries, and they had a company van I could use. It wasn't my dream job, not by a long shot, but it was a job that paid better than the warehouse, and crucially, it didn't require me to pay for gas or car repairs. It was a true lifeline, a hand reaching out to pull me from the depths. My new normal wasn't flashy or dramatic, but it was full of quiet dignity and renewed purpose. I was able to steadily pay down my medical bills little by little, and I even started saving for a new car. I still worked hard, but now I also made time to volunteer at a local community center, helping kids with their homework, especially those who struggled with reading, just like I had all those years ago. I told them stories, encouraging them, reminding them that everyone learns at their own pace, that effort and belief were far more important than speed. I wanted to be that Mrs. Albright for someone else, to offer that spark of belief. I learned that kindness isn't just about grand, sweeping gestures. It's about showing up, truly listening, and believing in someone when they need it most, often when they don't even believe in themselves. And then, a few months later, an unexpected letter arrived for me, an envelope addressed in unfamiliar, slightly shaky handwriting. It was from Mrs. Albright. Her words were clear, even though the handwriting was aged. She wrote that my letter had arrived on the very day she was going to retire from teaching, feeling a deep sadness, believing she hadn't made a significant difference in anyone's lives, consumed by the thought that her decades of work had simply faded into oblivion. My letter, she said, was the greatest gift she could have ever received, a powerful emotional reminder of exactly why she had become a teacher in the first place, reigniting a light in her heart that she thought had gone out. She even enclosed a faded, worn rocket ship bookmark, saying she had kept it all these years, tucked away in an old photo album, just in case one of her children, or even one of her former students, ever needed a reminder that they were going to fly far. It was a small, tattered piece of paper, but to me, it was living proof that hope, kindness, and human connection are truly the most powerful forces in the world, capable of changing lives in ways we might never fully understand, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that things truly do get better, often in the most beautiful, most unexpected ways, when we dare to believe and dare to connect.